It's another edition of Time About the Movies. Today we're taking a look at the films of July 12, 2002. We got 4 films to look at today, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend. That's Tom Hanks and Paul Newman in Sam Mendes' Road to Perdition. So how many of you out there actually knew that this was based off of a DC graphic novel? Because I known about this movie for the longest time. I saw this movie a long time ago. I never put it together that this was based off of a DC graphic novel, but no, it actually came out in 1998 as a graphic novel by Max Allan Collins, and I actually included in my earliest DC Ember reviews on the website, but I thought that was very interesting. I never would have put Road to Perdition and DC in the same category before, but lo and behold, that's what we got here. So the story of Road to Perdition, you have Mike Sullivan, played by Tom Hanks, who works as a hitman for a crime boss, John Rooney, played by Paul Newman. Sullivan views Rooney as a father figure. However, after his son is witness to a killing he has done, Mike finds himself on the run trying to save the life of his son, at the same time looking for revenge on those who wronged him. You also have Jude Law as a hitman who's also trying to kill Sullivan as well. It's a good movie. I would say that because, one, you got Sam Mendes. He was just coming off of American Beauty. You've got the screenwriter of this is the writer who also wrote The Bourne Identity, produced by the Zanuck brothers, who produced the Best Picture winners of Amadeus and Driving Miss Daisy. Tom Hanks, Paul Newman. Chances are it's going to be a great movie, and one of the most notable things you'll take right away from the movie is how gorgeous it looks. This is done by Conrad Hall, the late great Conrad Hall, who did the cinematography for American Beauty, which American Beauty is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's just beautiful to look at, capturing that gritty 30s style the movie should be aiming towards. In fact, Hall and Mendes actually took a lot of inspiration from the paintings of Edward Hopper and sought to convey similar atmospheric lighting for those scenes, applying the less is more mantra. And it works very well here. You can see why it got him an Oscar, and he passed away just 2 months before the Oscars, so what a way to go out in your career, man. But yeah, this is a great movie. It's one of the definitive crime movies, and one of the better crime movies that came out in that decade, besides, of course, The Departed, which we'll get to in 2006. But it's another great performance by Tom Hanks, giving yet another versatile performance in his illustrious career in the role of Mike Sullivan. Maybe it's not up there with some of his greatest performances overall, but it definitely shows he's got what Hanks is good at. I mean, he can play all these different roles, usually doing a great job at it. The rest of the cast is great. Paul Newman, fantastic. Tyler Hoechlin, who plays Mike's son, is very good. In fact, the only performance that I feel is kind of a little bit over the top is, surprisingly, Jude Law. I mean, Law's been well known as a great actor in his career, but this is the one I felt like he kind of was a little bit too cartoonish for his own good. And it kind of stumbles here a little bit with his performance. It's not a bad performance, but it's definitely the weak link in a cast that includes such acting legends in it. I mean, the music overall is well done. Once again, another Mendes, reliable. Thomas Newman doing the score. Very well handled, very good. Doesn't feel over the top or poorly produced. It feels legitimately done. David Self writes a very good script, keeping you involved with the twists and turns of the film, and providing some good ones that come out of the that come out of nowhere, but kind of fit with what they're trying to tell in the story. It's a very slick, stylish, over-enjoyable crime film, great performances, beautiful cinematography, great music, a good script, fantastic direction. It leads to probably one of the greatest crime movies of recent memory. It's a great cinematic achievement for Sam Mendes, and another one of the better DC movies to come out between that gap between 1997 and 2005, when they didn't really know when comic book movies were not the norm that they are right now. But if they kept this up, they could have probably been on their way to being a formidable force against Marvel's movies. And I say that, but then the next movie that they put out was The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and that we will get to next summer. But trust me when I tell you, that's another big blemish in what DC was trying to do around that time. But Road to Perdition is a great movie regardless, so I highly recommend that one. With that said, on to the next movie. A movie with so much going on in it, Reign of Fire, with Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale, directed by Rob Bowman, who directed the X-Files movie, and would follow this up with the infamous Elektra. So 1 out of 3, I guess, isn't bad, But the plot of this movie is that it takes place in England in the year 2020, 20 years after a London underground tunneling project inadvertently awakened dragons from centuries of slumber, and the creatures have subsequently replaced humans as the dominant species on Earth. While the fate of mankind is at stake, 2 surviving parties, led by Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey, find that they must work together to hunt down and destroy the beast in a desperate attempt to take back the world. Yeah, remember when those dragons were found in England 4 years ago? I mean, it was all over the news. I mean, screw COVID. That was the big story of 2020. And, yeah, that, of course, that didn't happen. But, this movie's pretty stupid. I mean, this is a movie that might have some good ideas to it. Some impressive visual effects. Don't get me wrong. Some of the visuals can look pretty decent at times. But yeah, you have a movie with Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale, and you do expect a little bit more from it. And an idea like this maybe could work if you had a better screenwriter on it, or maybe a better director. But yeah, it's another one of those dragon movies that was just coming out around that time that just couldn't muster a great film in the process. I mean, they can't all be Dragonheart. They can't all be the recent Dungeons and Dragons movie, Honor Amongst Thieves, the one that just came out recently, not the abomination that was the 2000s one. But yeah, we can't all be Lord of the Rings either. Like, I think this was Disney's attempt to try to create a Lord of the Rings franchise, and it just didn't work out. And it also produced by the Zanuck brothers, Zanuck filmmakers, Richard D. Zanuck and Lily Finney Zanuck. So, even though they make great movies like Road to Perdition and Amadeus, they can also make movies like this. And yeah, not much more to say about this one. A pretty bland movie. Nothing too interesting about it. I mean, it's just a good idea, just a missed opportunity on so many levels. And this isn't even the most embarrassing Christian Bale sci-fi film to come out in 2002 that some people actually have feelings for. Wait till we get to Equilibrium, because that one is seen as a cult classic. But let's just say that I'm one of those people that's you're probably not going to be too happy with what I have to say about that one. But that's Reign of Fire. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is, speaking of disappointments, Halloween Resurrection. And the award for the most misleading trailer of all time is Halloween Resurrection. Because let me tell you something, almost none of what happens in that commercial happens in this movie. In fact, Laurie Strode is in the first 5 minutes, and then she's killed off, which, warning sign number one, you should avoid the hell out of this movie. But warning sign number two, it's got Busta Rhymes in it. And yeah, this is one of the worst Halloween movies ever. And but hey, it's got the same director as Halloween 2, so that should put the butts in the seats, right? No. So, Michael Myers is back, causing more of a murderous rampage in his hometown of Haddonfield, where his childhood home is used for a live internet horror show, which features some notable names in there: Bianca Kajalik, Thomas Ian Nichols, Ryan Merriman, Sean Patrick Thomas, and Tyra Banks. And, I mean, it's just a slasher film, and not a good slasher film. Like, you want all these people to die, not because you don't like them or you want them to, because you have no sympathy towards them. You just want them to die so you can get the hell on out of here. Because as soon as Laurie Strode gets killed off, anything that this movie had going for it is just completely thrown out the window, because nothing is redeemable about this movie. Okay, maybe one thing. Busta Rhymes beats the shit out of Michael at the end of the movie, which, you know what? I'll give him that. That's probably the best thing about this movie, but we have the internet for a reason, so you can find that, and you don't have to watch the movie. You have to sit through 90 minutes of this movie to get to that point. And it just goes. Like, it moves it's 90 minutes long, but yet it feels like it's 3 hours long. It feels like double that, because nothing is happening in this movie that you haven't seen done before. You know what the setups are going to be. You know what the jump scares are going to be. You know what's going to happen to all these characters. And you just don't give a crap anymore. It's just like, there's no point to this movie existing. Except because it's Halloween, and it's a profitable franchise, so we got to keep it going. And yeah, like, Halloween was going through a tough period between H2O and the 2018 movie, but even the Jason Blum films found a way to screw that all up within a matter of years. So, just nothing happens in this movie that you haven't seen done in much better Halloween movies. And, like, there's just nothing of value to this film whatsoever. You can watch the best stuff of this movie online. You don't have to sit there for an hour and a half and watch this generic crap all over and over again. Like, nothing of value is merited in this. I want you to look at this movie, and I want you to look at Jason X. Jason X was another movie that did not really need to exist, but you know what they did? They had fun with that movie. They said, let's be over the top, let's be silly, let's have fun with this, and you know what? That movie is so bad it's good. This one is just so bad it's bad. Avoid this one like the plague. Halloween Resurrection. So let's go ahead and wrap this week up on a high note here, and quite literally a high note, because this is one of those movies that you look at and you think, there's no way that this could be good. But prepare to be surprised. The Crocodile Hunter in Collision Course. Hear me out. I know that trailer was terrible, but I can't show you the real trailer because, you know, MGM's just one of those companies like Universal, and now it's apparently Sony and Warner Brothers, who we're getting to that point where I can hardly use trailers in these without getting copyright claims, so that's what I had to use for that one. But the Crocodile Hunter Collision Course, in probably one of the weirdest decisions to go to the big screen, we have this movie, and yet, it surprisingly is very, very fun. This is based off, of course, of the Discovery Channel series, The Crocodile Hunter, and you have Steve Irwin and his wife Terry, who attempt to save a crocodile from poachers, in quotation marks, because they're actually two men from the American CIA, who are agents who are after them because the crocodile in the Irwin's possession has accidentally swallowed an important satellite tracking beacon from space. And, yeah, like, I remember when this movie coming out, and I really could not understand the appeal of making a movie based off the Crocodile Hunter that wasn't a documentary. It just seemed kind of odd to make a scripted movie out of the Crocodile Hunter, but the craziest thing, like I said, is that it's a movie that actually kind of works. Like, I just watched this again not too long ago, and I thought this was going to be pretty bad, and yet it surprisingly does work well. I mean, what makes it kind of work is that it's surprisingly investing and engaging, and that they still want to capture the spirit and the feel of an episode of The Crocodile Hunter, still keeping kind of the educational aspect of the show into it, while also integrating a script that doesn't feel forced or trying to get more out of they can get from what has already sold. Like, Steve and Terry Irwin are acting in this, but they're not being asked to do something outside of their norm. They're just doing enough and they managed to make it work, not stepping out of what they're usually doing on the show The Crocodile Hunter. But when the plot rolls in, it's kind of like watching Michael Jordan in Space Jam. He's asked not to do too much, but does just enough to work with the material given to him. And you've got a pretty good cast. I even like how they managed to bring back Timothy Bottoms, who I think is probably one of the best George Bush impersonators we have out there, who had just played him in That's My Bush the year before, and then he played him several more times, including in a serialized version of DC 9/11 Time of Crisis, which was like a Showtime made-for-TV movie. But the jokes are surprisingly good, too. Like, there's some kids' movie gross-out humor in this, and it's kind of funny at times, but you do get a decent chuckle here and there. And the gross-out jokes are kind of okay for the most part. I mean, this is a movie that takes a concept that could have been dead on arrival, tries to make a feature film out of it, and surprisingly makes it work. Steve and Terry Irwin do keep that charm and magnetism they have. The script keeps the show and the spirit of the series intact while also injecting a new story to work with. The jokes, for the most part, work. It's a fun movie, and not one that's going to warrant a ton of rewatchability overall, but it's definitely a lot better than I think a lot of people give it credit for. For a one-time watch, I'd say definitely check it out. You might actually be pleasantly surprised on how good it actually is. Like, it's a fun movie. It's a fun movie that takes a concept that probably should not work on the big screen and somehow manages to get a lot more out of it than I would have ever guessed from it. I recommend it. Crocodile Hunter Collision Course. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. When we meet next time, 3 more movies to look at, including Stuart Little 2. We have Harrison Ford and Liam Neeson in K-19, The Widowmaker from Catherine Bigelow, and David Arquette in Eight-Legged Freaks. So we'll take a look at those 3 films on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the place on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And also, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care.